You're not talentless. You're just a world-class liar. Seriously, every time you say, I don't have a gift, or I'm just not one of those people, you are committing a sophisticated act of fraud. You're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. But here's the irony, you actually are an expert at one thing. You're a genius at making excuses. Without notes, without a teleprompter, you can deliver a logically consistent, emotionally moving defense for why you're stuck. You've convinced yourself that greatness is a gated community and you just don't have the key. The speed, the fluency, the sheer volume of self sabotaging material you generate on demand, that is a skill, and it took years to develop. Maintaining the lie that you are ordinary is the most energy consuming thing you do. You aren't tired because you work too hard. You're tired because you're suppressing your own nature. That's not exhaustion, that's cognitive debt. So the real question isn't whether you have a gift. The question is, how long will you keep hiding behind the story that you're ordinary? My name is Alexandra, and I decode the world around you so you can better understand the world within you. Today, we're talking about your missing talent. Spoiler alert, you didn't lose it. You didn't have it surgically removed circa 2012. You just decided, somewhere along the way, that carrying your talent was too heavy and too risky. So you built a wall, called it being realistic, and you've been living in the basement of that wall ever since. Let's look at what that wall is actually made of. Let's talk about who you were before the world got its hands on you. When you were 5, you didn't really have interests. You had obsessions. You could spend hours organizing stones by color, building a whole kingdom out of cardboard, or telling an elaborate story to a cat, and that made perfect sense in your head. And you weren't trying to be creative, and you weren't trying to be impressive. You certainly weren't asking, is this good enough? You were just following what felt alive. And that matters because as a child, your brain was wide open. It was making connections constantly between sounds, colors, feelings, and movement. Your inner world wasn't being filtered through shame or the question, what will the people think of me? That part came later. At some point, the world started giving you feedback. Maybe you sang and someone laughed. Maybe you asked too many questions and someone called you annoying. Maybe you were too much, too dramatic, too sensitive, too intense, and your brain paid attention because your brain is built to protect you. And a child's brain doesn't hear rejection as a small social whoopsie, but it hears it as a danger. For most of human history, being rejected by the group meant you were lunch for a saber-toothed tiger. So your nervous system started learning, don't do that again, don't be too loud, don't be too weird. And here's the biology. Your brain strengthens what you use and weakens what you avoid. It's called synaptic pruning. So if self-expression once made you feel unsafe, your brain didn't delete that part of you, but it just stopped making it easy to access. You became more careful, more acceptable, more control. Not because that was your true personality, but because it was the safest version of you to perform. You spend your life watching other people from the sidelines. You see the gifted ones, the musicians, the artists, the mathematicians, the entrepreneurs, and you feel that sharp, bitter sting of envy. You think they were born with software updates you never received. But here is the truth, you don't envy them because they are special. You envy them because they are visible. The reason you don't see your own talent is that you're looking for it in your grind. You think that talent has to feel like a struggle. We live in a culture that fetishizes the hard way. If you didn't bleed for it, it doesn't count, right? Wrong. Actual talent is frictionless action. It's the thing you do so easily that you assume everyone else is just being lazy or stupid. It's the thing that feels like nothing to you. Think about it. If you walk into a room and instantly know the emotional weather, who is lying, who is hurting, that's not being nosy, that's perceptual precision. If you can take a mess of information and find the one thread that connects it all, that's synthesis. If you can't look at an inefficient system without wanting to redesign it, that's systems intelligence. Because these things feel like breathing to you, you dismiss them. You think, this can't be a gift. It's too easy. But that's the heist. Your brain has convinced you that your greatest strength is just a mundane habit. Your easy is someone else's impossible. Since you've spent years lying to yourself, we have to trick your brain into revealing the truth. But if you're still unsure, there are ways to find your talent, your hidden talent, to find what you buried. The Boredom test. So, where does your mind go when it has nothing to do? The contents of your undirected attention are the map. Your time wasting is often your talent trying to breathe. Also, the irritation marker. What makes you angry when other people do it badly? You can't be irritated by incompetence in a domain you don't understand. If you're watching this and thinking, I could have written this better, or the lighting is off, congratulations! Your arrogance is actually a diagnostic tool. Your I could do better is the voice of a dormant master. Time war. What can you do for 3 hours that feels like 30 minutes? That's flow. When time disappears, you are operating at the intersection of your skill and your nature. We have words for mathematical ability, we have certificates for technical skills, but we don't have a language for the soft talents that actually run the world. The school system didn't want your pattern recognition or your deep empathy. It wanted you to sit still for 8 hours and process data you didn't care about. So you killed the parts of yourself to fit into a square hole. You traded your genius for a title that means nothing to your soul. You were never broken, you were just too jacked for a factory setting world. You aren't a broken version of someone else, you are a suppressed version of yourself. Everything I've said so far might have felt like a glimmer of recognition, but then a voice in your head probably said, but that doesn't count. That retraction is shame. Shame is the bodyguard of your ego. It doesn't protect you from being bad, it protects you from being seen. Because if you are seen for your true gift, you can no longer use the I'm just ordinary excuse to avoid the work of greatness. The wall you built was a response to pain. You decided that if you didn't let your talent matter, no one can use it to hurt you. The work isn't finding your talent, it's tolerating the discomfort of being a beginner again. It's choosing to be cringy for 5 minutes so you can be exceptional for 50 years. So, I bet you're not talentless, you're just a little numb and a lot afraid. You've been using I'm just ordinary as a shield. It protects you from the disappointment of failing, but it also guarantees you'll never feel the satisfaction of being real. Go back to your younger self, not as a therapy exercise, but as a data collection mission. What you were doing when you were wasting time. Write it down. The moment you name it, it stops being a ghost and starts being a tool. Stop being a world class excuse maker. Start being a student of your own nature. If this hits you, there's more coming. So subscribe so you don't miss it.